This is K1DBC. All stations please stand by. The Denver Radio Club Learning Net will start in 5 minutes.
W0TX repeater.
This is K1DBC. The DRC Learning Net will start in 1 minute. All stations please stand by while the repeaters are placed in a net mode.
PL off.
All right, good evening. Hello and welcome. This is Kilo 1 Delta Bravo Charlie K1DBC. My name is Daron. I am net control for the Denver Radio Club Learning Net tonight. This is a directed net for the purpose of connecting amateurs seeking help or advice with Elmers willing to mentor. This net meets every Wednesday except the third Wednesday of the month at 1930 hours on the W0TX repeaters on frequencies 145.490, which is linked with 448.625. Both have a negative offset and tone of 100. This net can be broken at any time for emergency or priority traffic by using the word break. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? For recognition by net control, please use your call sign. Everyone is welcome. This is an on-air meeting for amateurs seeking help and Elmers giving their time to mentor. If you have any questions for the Learning Net and don't yet have your license or otherwise wish to contact the net, you may do so via email at drclearningnet@gmail.com. You can also view us on our public mailing list at groups.io/g/ham learning net or on youtube.com. If you search for W0TX DRC or the channel WERE GR8, you can find live streams of this net this evening as well as previous nets. All right, on the net on YouTube, we have so far Kevin, K0KPS, as check-in. Thank you so much for checking in. This is K1DBC Net Control. We will begin by inviting Elmers only to check in with or without traffic. All Elmers, please check in now.
Alpha 0 Juliet Kilo, AA 0 JK Fred Narvada. Good evening.
All right, anyone else who'd like to check in currently as an Elmer with or without traffic? All Elmers, please check in now. I apologize. I'm not sure if I even acknowledged the Fred there. I apologize. Net Control wishes to acknowledge AA0JK Fred. If I did, I spaced my mind there. I apologize. So at this time, Net Control would like to take all other check-ins. All of the check-ins will be taken in alphabetical groups based on the first letter of the suffix of the operator's call sign. Please try to use ITU and phonetics as you check in and indicate if you have traffic or questions for Elmers as you do. If your suffix begins with the letters A through M, Alpha through Mike, please check in now.
Kilo 0 Echo Hotel Romeo Mark in Littleton, no traffic.
Kilo 0 Bravo Alpha Tango Art Aurora.
Kilo 6 Hotel Juliet Victor, K6HJV, Tom, Arvada, no traffic.
Kilo 0 Lima Alpha India, K0 LEI, Larry in Lakewood, and it seems like the repeater's real scratchy this evening.
For 8.625. Both have a negative offset. All right, this is K1DBC Net Control for the Denver Radio Club Learning Net. We'll go ahead and hold up there for just a moment. All right, Net Control would like to welcome and acknowledge the following check-ins: K0EHR Mark, K0BAT Art, K6HJV Tom, and K0LAI Larry. Yeah, hearing it back a little bit, it does sound a little bit scratchy. I'll agree with you on that. All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. I'll go ahead and take all calls at this time. If your call suffix begins with the letters A through Z, Alpha through Zulu, please check in now.
Kilo Echo 0, November Romeo Echo, Jim in Littleton with no traffic.
WD0CIV, Charles in Denver, no traffic.
Kilo Echo 0, Sierra Uniform Mike, Jonathan, Lakewood, no traffic. WB2KQG, Vinny, Denver, no traffic.
W0.
This is November 0, Tango Romeo Papa, Jim in Lakewood. Good evening.
Kilo Bravo 9er, Quebec Delta Golf, Carl, Lakewood, no traffic.
AF0, AWC, Brian, Wheat Ridge, no traffic.
All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. We'll go ahead and hold up there for just a moment. All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. We have the following check-ins. Welcome to Knowledge of the following check-ins. K0E NRE. Jim, I may have that jumbled up, sorry. I definitely got you there, checked in. WD0CIV Charles, KE0SUM Jonathan, WB2KQG Vinny, N0TRP Jim, KB9QDG Carl, and KF0AWC Brian. If anybody needs any corrections on that, go ahead. Okay, one more call, Alpha through Zulu. If you'd like to check into the Denver Radio Club Ham Learning Net, please do so with your call sign. Try to use IT phonetics as you check in, and if it indicate if you have traffic or questions for Elmers as you do. All calls, please call now. Okay, this is K1DBC Net Control for the Denver Radio Club Ham Learning Net. There'll be several opportunities throughout the net to check in. I don't necessarily see anybody indicated that they had traffic, or if they did, I had missed it. But if you have anything, any traffic questions, anything you'd like to bring to the net, or any other check-ins, please call now. Okay, this is K1DBC Net Control. This may be a shorter net, but that is okay. Have a few people online here. Thanks for being here. Try to show you some cool things here as we go along. I'll try to pass some things here. I guess if we want to talk about the scratchy repeater port, it does sound a little bit scratchy, definitely. I guess as weather progresses and things get cooler, maybe there's things that go on. I don't really haven't paid attention to some of the nuances with the repeaters and some of the things, but I don't know anything on that. If anyone else, or Larry or anyone else wants to bring anything else up on that, go ahead.
K0SUM question.
Yeah, KE0SUM, go ahead.
Hey, Drone. Well, I'm relatively new in learning terms and exploring, but I take my vertical portable out and I lay out one counterpoise, I believe is the correct terms. But then if I add others, are they just radials, or do they become counterpoise at the same time?
AA0JK.
Yeah, if you stumped as well, because I'm new as well. But AA0JK, Fred, go ahead.
They are all a part of your RF ground. Your RF ground, aka counterpoise.
So if I lay out 4, say north, south, east, and west, then my directionality becomes much greater, or omnidirectional. Is that correct, Fred? KE0SUM.
You're primarily omnidirectional, but if you lay at least 1 quarter wavelength out for each band that you are planning on using in relation to what your vertical is set up for, is highly recommended. But as they say, the more that you have laid out, the better. But that would be the bare minimum. Otherwise, the more you lay out, the better your RF grounding is.
But the vertical antenna I have is wound with 33 feet of, so it's probably, it's tuning well on 20. Well, actually tuning really well on 40. So if I cut the radials not all the same length, it'll tune better on different bands. Is that correct? KE0SUM.
A quarter wavelength minimum for each band. But if you can get them out there a half wavelength, all the more the merrier, the better. But remember, you're looking for resonance. So if you set those up, cut those so that they are resonant at the frequencies that you plan on using, that should improve your vertical's radiation. So that's just a little bit more than just laying them out haphazardly, which you could also do anyway. But you're just looking for a ground plane, so to speak.
Thanks for that information. Tuesday and Wednesday are supposed to be warm next week, and I'm going to go back up and set up again. I'm going to probably try that with some radials, how the analyzer works and how it tunes. I appreciate the information. KE0SUM, back to the net.
All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. Good talk there. AA0JK, Fred, and KE0SUM, Jonathan on those. Yeah, I still need to really dig and just get a good understanding of some basic antenna theory. Unfortunately, when we were speaking about these things, I really just don't feel comfortable speaking. And but good conversations there. Thank you so much for the follow-up. Anyone else on that, or Fred or Jonathan? Go ahead.
W0TX repeater.
All right, this is K1DBC Net Control for the Denver Radio Club Ham Learning Net. We're also hearing, I think, an APRS beacon in there. If you have APRS enabled and you're on a radio that has APRS, just make sure it's not trying to transmit, or make sure your computer's not trying to transmit on that. But I may try to decode that here and see if I can find what that is. But good conversation there. Anyone else on that topic of counterpoise radials versus radials, vertical portable layouts, quarter wavelength, minimum, matching resonance? Please come down.
A0JK.
Yeah, AJJK, go ahead.
Just putting it in the most simple way that I can possibly try to explain. When you're looking at your antenna, thinking of antennas, think of them all as a basic dipole, because you've got two major elements. You've got your main element, and then you've got your counterpoise, or your RF ground side. Look at it as a dipole first when you're thinking of the basics of how your antenna works. Now, regardless of what other configurations you might have, be it a vertical or any other configurations, you still have to have both sides, and both sides need to be resonant for the frequency on which they are set up for. So if you want to understand your very basics of antenna, think of everything, or every antenna as a dipole, or at least require the fundamentals of a dipole. Your main element and your RF ground side, which is the counterpoise. And when you start getting into the off-center dipoles and other configurations, then you have to start compensating for that mismatch when you lose that resonant RF counterpoise side. And that's where all the other complications and everything come into play. But first, think of it basically as a dipole where both sides are resonant. That's about as basic as I can think to present it at this time. Plenty of information out there on the internet. Just go for articles there on Antennas 101. AA0JK.
All right, thanks there, Fred. Yeah, absolutely. Now more than ever, we definitely have so much resources at our disposal, so I guess there's no reason we shouldn't know. I shouldn't know some of these basics into anyone else, because it's knowledge is power, and knowledge is out there, more freely available more than ever. So you just kind of have to stick to it and just try to understand and want to understand these concepts, and just try to apply them and over apply them and understand and be able to really apply them in the real world. And I guess that is how you can really more understand these. So yeah, very, very cool there. Thanks there, Fred.
Comment?
Yeah, go ahead with comment.
Every ham should have a copy of the American Radio Relay League's handbook. And if you're really into antennas, get the ARRL's handbook on antennas. Great resources. If you ever have any questions or want to get a little bit more in-depth, you'll have it at your fingertips. AA0JK. those are great packets, Daron. Those that you have up there on the screen, those are great packets. The way they have them all broke down by topic, and real quick reference material.
Absolutely. Thanks there, Fred. Yeah, and I know from the testing, I mean, they make the testing for like elementary or middle school kids. And so a lot of these concepts, a lot of their publications they make are definitely designed to really break it down and not necessarily need an engineering degree. So I definitely need to delve more into their publications. I have a couple. I really just need to go through them and really go through them and understand and try to piece these things together. So yeah, great suggestions there. The ARRL Handbook 2020 as well as the ARRL Antenna Book. Great suggestions.
Comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, those are not for the elementary level readers. You will find these texts on the desks of many engineers, and you can get just as in depth as you care to with these. There's quite a list of other books that ARRL has available if you want to get in at just really elementary, and all kinds of great books on different antenna configurations available with ARRL. But these handbooks that you have up on the screen here are at least the basics you should have in your library. AA0JK.
Okay, gotcha. That makes a little bit more sense. Absolutely. I've been reading. Let me go grab it here.
Don't put any more dings in your drapes.
All right, I just missed that, but I have grounding and bonding. I've gotten through about halfway through it, and I just put it down a while back and haven't picked it back up, unfortunately. I also have care and feed of transmission lines. I think we've spoken about both of these, so I just need to pick these back up because these aren't super big. These are pretty thin, so just need to pick them up and just need to get back to them. So yeah, I appreciate these suggestions there.
Great publications, Daron, great publications. And the last comment was that don't throw the cat up against the drapes anymore.
Gotcha, thank you. All right, this is K1DBC Net Control for the Denver Radio Club Ham Learning Net. Does anyone have any other comments or questions so far about anything we've spoken about so far this evening or any other check-ins? Please call now.
I have one more question, if that's okay. KE0SUM.
Of course, KE0SUM. Jonathan, go ahead.
Well, I've been talking, I have a second-story townhouse, basic roof. It's not flat. So the HOA has agreed to look at my options to putting up an antenna. So I'm going to put up just a vertical, obviously. I think that's the only thing I can get away with, something HF vertical. And so then what do I have to do for counterpoise on top of a roof? I haven't researched that yet, and I appreciate the information. KE0SUM back in that.
W0TX repeater.
JK.
Good question there, SUM. AA0JK, Fred, go ahead.
Just lay out your counterpoise, whichever, however convenient there. It's not as critical as your vertical itself, but just lay them out, wherever space is available, so to speak.
I think my thinking is I want the HOA to accept this. The antenna I don't think we'll have a problem with. Maybe the wire coming down for a counterpoise or to the ground. So I want to be careful. I want to submit like photos of other people having done this, so they'll say, "Oh, that looks good, Jonathan." But so I'm just being careful, and I appreciate your thoughts.
JK? AA0JK, Jonathan, if you happen to notice those publications that Daron put up on the screen, they come highly recommended. If you don't already have copies of those, they're a good investment. AA0JK.
I think I need to invest in a copy of those. Another ham friend of mine, I have a complete box set, I want to say. It's in cardboard, the 4-volume antenna issued by ARRL. But that's a little advanced for me, to be honest.
I thought you had a background in electronics. No, you don't have to be an engineer to understand what is being put forward in each one of those chapters. They're extremely well written, and it also comes in just a single volume if you don't particularly care for all the individual ones. So there's hardcover, softcover editions also, depending upon whatever's best for you. But they come highly recommended, plus those two that Daron showed up on the screen there earlier on grounding systems and some of your other antenna texts. So thank you. The care and feeding of transmission lines. Now there's a goodie. There's a goodie. And grounding and bonding. Good material for your library. Thanks, Daron. AA0JK.
Thanks, Drone. I saw that too. And as a side note, I'm recently retired, so I have more time to study these books. And I do have an electronics background. That's my degree, but never played much with antennas. And it's new and very, very interesting to me. KU0SUM back to them.
Yeah, antennas are pretty simple. Just keep it basic. Don't make them more complicated than necessary. They are actually very simple, regardless of how anybody else would like to tell you otherwise. AA0JK.
W6IWI.
All right, great conversation here. All W6IWI, go ahead.
Very good. I'm just joining in late after doing some ice skating lessons. So talking about antennas, there's a free version of EasyNEC, EasyNEC. I don't know if you've mentioned that, but it's a great way to play with antennas on your computer and see what patterns are going to look like, driving point impedances, and things like that.
All right, W6IWI, this is K1DBC. Good suggestion there. I'll have to check into that a little bit more. EasyNEC, EasyNEC. I'll see if I can try to bring that up here pretty quickly and show that up on the screen here.
Very good. Yeah, I've played with that, looking especially at vertical antennas as you shorten the ground radials and what that does to the driving point impedance, because there are commercial antennas, commercial verticals that have very short radials on them. So I just wondered what that did. And the free version of EasyNEC will do that. Also, you can look at dipoles, inverted V's, or whatever you may want. So I'll be listening, and again, I did not hear the beginning of the net. I just dropped in here as I drive home. W6IWI back to net control.
All right, W6IWI. I made a terrible mistake there. I almost goosed it there, but I tried to install that program, and or I did install that program, and it tried to reboot my computer on me, but luckily it did not. W6IWI, easy NEC. Thanks for bringing up that program. We'll have to check that out.
Sorry to hear about the problems. It works for me, but that's no guarantee.
Yeah, no, it's just the installation. Just the installation. Yeah, absolutely. And we were also speaking last week about another simulation program for RF. I'll see if I can try to bring that up as well.
There are some programs that come with the ARRL antenna book, transmission line networks and stuff like that.
AA0JK.
All right, sounds good. A0JK. Fred, go ahead.
Yeah, in the past, I've always got a program, CD, along with my handbooks, ARRL handbooks. That a lot of those have programs on them for figuring out a lot of those interesting programs there for diagnosing different antennas. But don't get overwhelmed with all of that. Keep it basic, unless you've got some experience and a few years under your belt as a ham. Try to keep it simple. Otherwise, it kind of burns you out, so to speak. And just keep it simple. Keep it simple. Just get a good resonant dipole up as a basic, or if you've got other situations there for limited space, a good vertical with an appropriate counterpoise ground, RF ground on it. And don't try to make it more complicated than need be. All those programs are working with absolutes. There is no such thing as an absolute in the real world. So don't get caught up in it and quit chasing the SWRs for one-to-one. That's a lot of game playing also. I've written some articles there in the newsletter and what have you about that. And too many people put too much emphasis on, it's got to be one-to-one. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. So don't get caught up in all of the technicalities. You're not going to have a situation where you're going to have an absolute that lines up with some of these programs that they've got out there on your computer. They're good to a certain degree for like the radiation patterns and what have you, but you're not going to have a situation where you're going to be able to put your antenna up in a perfect environment. There's always going to be trees, the shack itself, the buildings, and everything else that are going to distort any and all of those. So don't get too caught up in any of that. AA0JK.
K0EHR, comment.
All right, A0JK Fred there. Thank you so much for the follow-up there. And W6IWI, yeah, thanks for all that. Yeah, you can get really, really deep on this stuff, but a lot of it, kind of what we're dealing with, can be dealt with on less of a higher level engineering. But it's really awesome that we are able to even understand and have the knowledge and capabilities to do this on ourselves. K0EHR, Mark, go ahead.
Thanks, Drone. Jonathan, I think you and I might have chatted about this at one point, but when I first started, as you probably remember, right now I've got a 203-foot in-fed wire antenna, random wire, that I'm really happy with. But when I first started, I didn't want to put some wires up in the air and all that kind of stuff, a combination of not being sure about my association and more importantly, not being sure about my XYL committee approval. So what I wound up doing is, I started with a 71-foot random wire end-fed, with a 9-to-1 on it. I just got it at ham radio outlet. They just sell it as a package to Palomar engineers. Anyway, I just strung it across my roof line. So the only elevation now, I've got a 2-story house, so it was on the second floor, but I just ran it from my basement where my shack is, coax up to the unend, which I had sort of on the side of my house, and then I literally just ran the wire straight across my roof until I ran out of 71 feet worth of space, and then I just doubled it back, and then I did a couple of counterpoises, not very long either. And anyway, it wasn't great, but I was able to, especially on s.t.e.m, I had like over 40 contacts within a few days on anywhere from 40 all the way down to 10 meters. So, if you're looking for sort of the ultimate in stealth antennas, that's a good way to go because you could literally lay it right across your roof, and you get pretty good performance out of it. K0EHR, back to net.
K0SUM comment.
Yeah, K0SUM comment, and thank you there, K0HR, for the follow-up.
I appreciate the comments. My main goal in getting an antenna on top of the roof is when I take my, I've got an Yaesu 891 I've been taking to, up to Genesee Mountain, Denver Park, and my signal, the noise ratio goes down, from like in the house, I might get an S8 and it goes down to S2 or 3. So I'm hoping an external antenna is going to change my noise ratio. So I'm at Jewel and Wadsworth, and I have a lot of industrial light noise, I suppose. So I just wanted to kind of clarify.
All right, thanks there, Jonathan, K0SUM. Anyone else on that topic, please call now. All right, this is K1DBC Net Control for the Denver Radio Club Ham Learning Net. Yeah, antennas and experimentation, and it's all about just seeing what you can get away with, and it's seeing what you can do. There's definitely a lot of stealth options out there, and a lot of different ways you can do things. But some of these end-feds provide really good options here for you. So thanks there, Mark, K0EHR, and Jonathan. If you have any other follow-up or anyone else on that, go ahead.
K0JK.
Yeah, A0JK, go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of end-feds, Chameleon has an excellent end-fed antenna that you could string up, be really stealthy to say the least, and just have a good hook up a ground poise wire there to it for the other half of your antenna. But look at the Chameleon end-fed antennas. Excellent antennas and stealthy. And you can just get it out away from the building and out into some clear air. You don't want the building absorbing all of the RF out of your antenna. You want it to go out into space. So there's a good option and an excellent antenna, the Chameleon infed AA0JK. Back to net.
All right, chameleonantenna.com for more info on that, for their end-fed antennas that provide some stealthiness to them. Very good follow-up there, Fred. All right, this is K1DBC Net Control for the Denver Radio Club Ham Learning Net. Does anyone else have any other comments, questions, check-ins, anything else you'd like to bring up for the net? Please do so now.
Oh, I don't mean to be a bother, but since I got Fred on, and I do have one more comment. What do you think about a magnetic loop? I've toyed with those. They're kind of expensive, but it might work in my situation. KU0SUM, back to net.
JK.
Great question there. A0JK, go ahead.
Yeah, Jonathan, I've been hearing some real good reports on some of those, especially in the situation where you're having antenna issues. But also keep in mind, those are QRP, low power antennas. You're not going to be running 100 watts into those. They are low power antennas, but I've heard some pretty good reports back on those. They are expensive, but you know, what kind of a situation are you in as far as setting up an antenna? Might be a good option for you, but remember, QRP, low power antenna. You're not going to be able to run 100 watts into them.
Thanks, I didn't realize mag loops were only QRP. Yeah, it rules out. I'd rather do 100 watts and try and make a few more contacts. From what I gather, QRP can be a little frustrating. KU0SUM, back to that.
W.
There's nothing wrong with QRP, Jonathan. There's nothing wrong with QRP. And kind of depends upon your situation. If you're going to want to run 100 watts, you're going to have a mighty big loop antenna. Yes, you can build one, but it's going to be very large, and I don't think you're going to want to be jumping through the center of the loop as you go from one room of the house to the other.
All right, AA0JK and K0SUM, good conversation on mag loops. Yeah, I've heard some pretty good things about them too. Yeah, I don't know about wattages specifically, but I've heard of them in the last 5 or so years, up and comers, and so yeah, pretty interesting things. We'll need to dig more into these.
KRP with a question.
Yeah, N0TRP. Go ahead.
Now this N0TRP, maybe just to extend the discussion a little bit, Fred, I just wonder if you could comment briefly on balun and RF chokes. You know, I know that you got to have a balun to do your impedance matching. if needed there. But are RF chokes always required? And then if you kind of talk about that with HF versus VHF and UHF in 0TRP.
What was the handle there?
Jim.
Okay, Jim. Yeah, your chokes, your RF chokes, like if you've got a beam antenna, you'll be using a what we call an ugly balun or an RF choke. What you're trying to accomplish there is keeping RF from coming back down the coax into the shack, and by coiling it up into that ugly balun or loop of coax, it kind of counters out any RF that tries to come back down the line. And when it comes to your balance, that's bal dash unbalanced to unbalanced, or unbalanced to unbalanced, like you would have on an end-feed antenna. Those are trying to match your imbalance of your feed line, the imbalance of the feed line to your radio. And when you start getting into configurations like the off-center dipoles, the Wyndhams and what have you, you've got one half of your antenna that really isn't resonant. So you have to compensate for that somehow. If you've got a configuration where both sides aren't resonant, so you install a balanced to unbalanced. And for instance, coax is unbalanced. If you have a balanced antenna, you got to match up the balanced to the unbalanced situation that you have there between your feed line and your antenna. So that's what those baluns and ununs are doing. They're compensating for a mismatch. Does that help?
Yes, it does. And I'm curious about VHF and UHF too. All the same principles there. Say, take for example a commercial grade VHF, UHF ground plane antenna. Is that something I need to put an RF choke on as well?
Negative. No. I've just only dealt with mainly with those in HF in high frequency situations. I have never seen or used one in VHF, UHF. I wouldn't be concerned with that. If you've got a good antenna designed for 2 meters or 7 centimeters, you're not going to need any of that in the line. Not to of any thing that I have seen in the past. AA0JK. Daron, did your computer freeze up?
It sounds like something maybe dropped out there at the last minute. But anyway, thank you so much for information. Big help. N0TRP back to net.
Daron, did your computer freeze?
All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. I don't think it has frozen. Can you see anything changing that here at the moment?
It's just frozen. And you got the little circle going around and round and round like it's trying to load. And it's on the antenna modeling page there. A beginner's guide to modeling is what it shows.
All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. Give me just a moment here. I don't think it's frozen, but let me just try to verify. You may want to stop and start. I know YouTube was having issues today just a couple of hours ago, surprisingly. But give me just one moment. I'll be right back.
Is anyone else having the same situation, or is it just mine?
Drone just disappeared and came back in the lower left-hand corner on YouTube for me.
All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. Yeah, I've checked it on a couple of devices. I seem to be still alive here, and yeah, you may just want to refresh your things. Unfortunately, yeah, surprisingly, it's very, very uncommon, but they were actually having issues today, YouTube, just a couple of hours ago. But with that, I guess, Fred, yeah, you may want to refresh your setup there. This is K1DBC Net Control. Does anyone else have anything else you'd like to bring up to the net? Please call now. And or any other follow-up to that ferrite bead, RF choke, unbalanced conversation. Go ahead.
K0EHR.
Yeah, K0EHR. Go ahead.
Yeah, just one more comment. That one thing I discovered, I was actually really surprised about this with my NFET. I'd been playing around with the lengths of counterpoises and using the coax as part of the antenna system and so on and so forth. When I first started, I had my RF choke right at the back of the radio, and my shack's down in the basement, and it sort of dawned on me that I was using a pretty good chunk of that coax that was radiating through my basement, which didn't cause me any issues like physically, but obviously I'm wasting a lot of energy. So I started moving the RF choke up higher and higher, and I actually wound up with it right below the unun. And so, in other words, basically taking the coax out of the radiation equation. And when I did that, I didn't notice too much of an SWR difference from, say 40 meters and then, up down to 10 or 6 meters. But 160 and 80, it made a massive difference. Especially at 160, my SWR changed by 7 units just by doing that. So if any of you have a situation like mine with an NFET random wire, and you're worrying or trying to think about where you should put your choke, and you don't have a very long coax, or you've got a coax that probably isn't radiating very efficiently, just try putting that RF choke right up at the unun, and it made an amazing difference for me. Back to net.
JK.
All right, thanks there, Mark. A0JK, Fred, go ahead.
Yeah, when you're using a in-feed antenna like that, your coax becomes the counterpoise in a lot of situations and a lot of the different designs. Your choke or your ferrite bead that you're moving back up and down, there you were actually affecting one half of the antenna and canceling it out, so to speak. And that's why you're seeing that. You have to keep in mind that half of that antenna is in the coax. Usually, in the case of a coax, it's that braided section of the coax is actually your ground side of your antenna, your counterpoise. So that's why moving that thing around was affecting your antenna performance.
Yeah, it's K0HR. Yeah, absolutely. And in my case, I've got a pretty long counterpoise. It's the unun has got a lug on it for a counterpoise, so it's sort of the ground side of that if you're not using coax for that. And so I've got a 20-meter counterpoise, and it's working like a champ now. I've got great SWR all the way from 160 all the way down to 6. So for what it's worth, K0HR, back to net.
Sounds good. Sounds good. A0JK.
All right, this is K1DBC Net Control. Great conversation so far on RF choke placement, and within a feed line, and great follow-up there, everyone. Anyone else on that subject or anything else we've spoken about so far, or any other further check-ins to the net, please call now.
Whiskey Delta 6 Delta Oscar Kilo, late check-in in Arvada. No traffic.
All right, we had WD6 DOK. Rich, thank you for checking in. We are nearing almost the end of the net. There isn't a strict hard deadline, but I may take probably the second to last call or so for any check-ins to the Denver Radio Club Ham Learning. And if you have any other last-minute questions or just checking in the net just for the count, please call now.
Kilo 0 Yankee Echo Sierra, Ken checking in.
W0 Foxtrot Charlie with a comment about mag loop antennas.
All right, we had K0YES Ken and W0FFC Jerry with a comment in regards to mag loop antennas. We'll go ahead and throw it over to you, Jerry. Go ahead.
There are several mag loop antennas that will take 100 watts. MFJ has one, and RF Precision has another, so I do know of two. I actually have the MFJ loop, and it will run a full 100 watts. The problem with mag loops, of course, are they're very narrow bandwidth, and they constantly have to be retuned. RF have one that will tune automatically. It's not cheap. It's about $1,200, $1,300, but it will tune automatically, and that's one of the major problems that you have with all mag loop antennas.
Physical size, how big?
It's about 36 inches at 3 feet across.
Okay, thank you.
How directional is it?
It's directional. Actually, I have two mag loops. I have one for receiving and one for transmitting. But you can put them, for example, our Precision does have a rotator that you can put them on. It's very simple. They'll get a relatively cheap rotator for about $150, $160 antenna rotator to rotate them. So they have a relatively sharp null loop.
Question?
Thank you there, FFC, for the information on that. Yeah, go ahead with the question.
Yeah, on the loop antennas, do you have to tune the capacitance tune on those antennas every time you change frequency? This is WD6 DOK, sorry.
Depending how far you're going, small increments you don't need to change, but if you're going, 100 kc, yes, you do. And of course, you have to tune them from band to band. The one really nice thing to look at for mag loops is on the receiving end, because if you've got, you're in a relatively noisy location, mag loops, they don't pick up water. So if they're anything else, they're great for just receiving. So forget about the transmitting right now. They're great receiving antennas.
Could you repeat a lot of static during your transmission? KE0SUM.
I'm sorry, I'm transmitting from the basement, so this may not be the best place of all to transmit from anyway. The one good thing about mag loops is the receiving loops. If you're in a relatively high noisy location, they are relatively quiet. So it's one way to get reasonably good reception in a noisy neighborhood.
Thank you for the comeback. That's kind of the antenna I'm looking for, but I'm still thinking KE0SUM back to net. They're expensive.
And what isn't these days?
All right. Thank you there for the follow-up there, gentlemen. Anyone else on that subject while we're here? Mag loop antennas theory. I mean, there's definitely a big topic about it. But anything surface level you want to speak about, or anything else you want to pass on that? Go ahead.
Yeah, Doran, I've just got a comment. I've got an Alex loop antenna.
W0TX repeater.
Yeah, N0TRP. Jim, go ahead with the Alex loop antenna follow-up.
Yeah, TRP wasn't me. N0TRP back to net.
Oh, sorry about that. Whoever that was on the Alex loop, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is Whiskey Delta 6 Delta Oscar Kilo, and I've used the Alex loop, but the problem that I had with it, or you'd have to adjust that capacitance on it. So with a Arduino, I made a board that would drive a servo that would adjust that at least 100 feet, so I could put the antenna away from the station a bit. And I did use a rotor with it too, but it worked pretty good. Wasn't too bad. Back to net. Whiskey Delta 6 Delta Oscar Kilo.
All right, Delta Oscar Kilo. Thanks there for the follow-up on the Alex tuner, yeah, and use of an Arduino. Always nowadays coming in to show us in the face about what we can do and we can't do. So, yeah, automatic tuner for magnetic loop, or at least remotely accessible one. So via Arduino. Very, very cool follow-up on that.
Doran, this is Rich at WD60OK. I was wondering if you could, or somebody else could, we were talking about the NFED antennas, and I think there was one that fella had thrown the wire up around on the roof. I think he purchased HRO. Could you give me the model number of that antenna, if you remember?
Kaiser EHR.
Yeah, EHR, go ahead.
Kaiser EHR, just looking it up right now. It's by Palomar Engineers. Palomar, like the observatory engineers, and their website's just palomar-engineers.com. And if you go under that, just look under antennas, and from there, I'm just doing it as we're speaking here, there should be a section where they talk about ham radio outlet products, and you'll find it right under that. It's the 71-foot NFET let's see, looking at it here. Anyway, yeah, I think it was just over $100, and that included the 71 feet of wire and 2 counterpoises. So pretty good deal. K0HR.
Thank you. WD60, okay.
All right, perfect. Thanks for the follow-up there, EHR. Palomar Engineering, Palomar Engineers, excuse me, palomar-engineers.com for more information on that 71-foot antenna. Okay, this is K1DBC Net Control for the Denver Radio Club Ham Learning Net. We are nearing the end of the net. I wonder if anyone else has any other further comments or questions. Otherwise, I can pass a couple things and we can go from there.
KD0DUJ, Chris in Denver, late check-in.
All right, KD0DUJ, Chris, got you checked in. This will be the second to final call. There'll be one more call after I pass any traffic, but if anyone else would like to check in at the moment, please call now.
Alpha Fox 0 Echo, Alex Bromfield.
All right, and that time we had AF0E. Alex, thanks for checking in. All right, quickly over on hackaday.com. I didn't read this story too much, but pretty new news here. Aircraft radio bears all. Certain charm to older electronics, heavy metal chassis, and obviously hand-worn, hand-wired harness. Watching this user's teardown of a Collins 51R VOR receiver is a good example of that. So if you aren't familiar with it, it stands for VHF Omnidirectional Range and allows airplanes to tune into a fixed ground-based radio beacon and determine its heading in relation to its own beacon. In some cases, it can also calculate distance. Years ago, VOR antennas actually rotated rapidly, but today it's more likely to be an array of antennas switched electrically. The radio beam has several encoding schemes, including an FM reference signal that allows an airplane receiver like the 51R to determine the heading to the beacon. If you know the heading to two beacons, you can figure out where you are. Even with a single beacon, you can hold course towards it or away from it and maintain a setting heading. A receiver like the Collins would drive a course deviation indicator, CDI, a horizontal situation indicator, HSI, and a radio magnetic indicator, RMI, on the plane's cockpit, and might also provide input to an autopilot. Compared to modern gear, the components look huge. Understanding where an aircraft has always been a big deal, and there are many ways to deal with it. Transponders were one part of the equation, and now we're seeing move into ADSB. So more info on hackaday.com on that. Over on, as well as hackaday.com, we've been speaking about the Arecibo Observatory, and unfortunately, a second failed cable has torn away. And so the let's see, particular dial. Let's see here. I guess to try to quickly read this, one of the one of the primary support cables at the Arecibo Observatory snapped, nudging the troubled radio telescope closer to potential disaster. The observatory's 300-meter reflector dish was already badly in need of repairs after spending 60 years exposed to the elements in Puerto Rico. But dwindling funds have made it difficult for engineers to keep up. Damage from 2017's Hurricane Maria was still being repaired when a secondary support cable broke free and smashed through the dish back in August, leading to grave concerns over how much more abuse the structure can take before catastrophic failure is inevitable. So pretty dire on that. So read up on it, and who knows the future of Arecibo at the moment. I guess still over on Hackaday.com, they have a annual prize. The winner this time is W0TX. It's an open source mouth actuated input device for people with physical challenges. It's just been named the grand prize winner of the 2020 Hackaday Prize. They claim best all around and have awarded $50,000. 5 other top winners and 4 honorable mentions were also named. So this is a bit different than your typical sip and puff. It includes, I think, a Teensy or some sort of microcontroller. It's a responsive hands-free interface, is affordable, versatile, and will be life-changing for people who have limited and no mobility for using traditional input devices. Tongue sensor for directional movement and pressure-sensitive bite sensor for selection input. So it's quite a lot of really cool things and a lot of follow-up prizes here. So an annual prize. This one was for it was put on by the Conservation X Labs, United Cerebral Palsy, Los Angeles, Cal Earth, Field Ready. And so they put forth the, let me see if they have that here real quick. I don't have that here. Some more info again on Hackaday.com. Gosh, quite a few more things there on Hackaday. I had forgotten to mention last weekend they had a Remoticon, and over on their YouTube they have a lot of really cool talks. SMD challenges and soldering, a lot of demos. They had a lot of stuff on software-defined radio. I'll have to bring up the thing because there was a lot of really cool stuff on it. SDR workshops. So if you look Remoticon up on Hackaday.com or on YouTube, you can find a lot of their videos here. Let me bring it up here. Yep, embedded serial buses, Hacker's Guide, hardware debugging, what is this SDR thing and how do I use it, PCB reverse engineering, using machine learning on microcontrollers, basics of RF emissions. They had a lot of cool talks, and so you can find them over on their YouTube channel, youtube.com/Hackaday, I believe. All right, I'm afraid I'm probably running out of time here. Just a quick, another little blurb here. Right to repair is another big topic. It came out of a lot of the John Deeres and the tractors and farmers wanting to repair their own equipment, and it's come out into like Apple and people wanting to fix their own iPhones and things like that. So there's a lot of legislation that has recently been passed. So more info on that on protocol.com. You can there's an interview with iFixit founder. A lot more info on that. Okay, I'm sure I probably have a few more things, but at this point, yeah, always check out rtl-sdr.com. They have so many really cool articles and topics if you have any interest in learning DSP and SDR. This is a topic over there, so over on rtl-sdr.com, hackaday.com. With that, I'm going to throw it out to the net. Anyone else have any other comments, questions, anything I brought up so far, anything else you want to bring up? Last-minute check-ins, anything else, please call now.
Delta Oscar Kilo.
Yeah, Delta Oscar Kilo. Rich, go ahead.
Yeah, Dorian, I was just wondering if anybody on net tonight, or if you know of anybody that has rebuilt a Heathkit SP200 linear amp. If anybody gone through that? It's Whiskey Delta 6 Delta Oscar Kilo.
AA0JK.
All right. Yeah, I think we'd briefly spoken about this last week, but AA0JK, go ahead.
Yeah, last week I wished I would have made note of it, but there is a website that's about rebuilding the 200 linear, and also it offers parts like replacing the capacitors and what have you in those units. But there is plenty of information there on the internet if you are so inclined to get in there and make the modifications. But first of all, if it already works, don't touch it. If it's operational and the finals are good, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But if you've got other issues like dried out capacitors and what have you, you might want to look up some of the web pages. There's several on that particular unit and Heathkit in general for rebuilding and the SB line. AA0JK.
Okay, I apologize. Did I bring that up last week?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I guess that's what happens when you start getting older. You forget everything. So I apologize to everybody. I didn't think I had brought it up, but anyway. Okay. Back to net. Whiskey Delta 6 Delta Oscar.
Okay, yeah, Daron's got it up now. Restoration of the 200. Daron's got it up on the screen.
Okay, thank you.
All right, not a problem. Delta Oscar Kilo. Yeah, last week you'd kind of brought this, but it seemed like it was in a kind of in a different manner. I think you were trying to. There was a different question, but yeah, no problem. Definitely bring it up and let us know how this goes, and don't hesitate to keep bringing it up, and we'll keep reminding you, and we'll go from there. No worries. So this is K1DBC Net Control. Anyone else on that or anything else? Any other last minute things you would like to bring up? Please call now.
JK.
Yeah, AA0JK. Go ahead.
AA0JK. Be advised with these linears and any of these older radios, especially these linears, you are dealing with high voltage. Do not stick your pinkies inside that chassis until that all those capacitors and everything have had time to discharge. But be advised, you can have a severe shock if you go messing around inside that. If it's been plugged in, unplug it and make sure all the capacitors and everything have discharged. Can be pretty risque if you haven't had any personal experience in the past. Avoid. Let somebody who knows what they're doing work on it. AA0JK.
Yeah, thank you. I guess what is it, the one-handed rule? One hand in the back pocket and never touch anything else when you got it open.
Yeah, I'd go one step further. I wouldn't mess with it at all unless you had experience in the past. They're working on that sort of thing. Let somebody who knows what they're doing work on it and make the modifications. Even with the one hand in the pocket, you can still get electrocuted.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the info. I do appreciate it. Whiskey Delta 6 Delta Oscar Kilo.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, absolutely. We are. This is a hobby of experimentation, but definitely keep safety in mind for sure. But yeah, good luck on that, and let us know how that goes. Thanks there, Fred, on that, and DOK, and let us know. And anyone else, this will be the final call. Any other last-minute check-ins for the net? Please call now.
W0.
Okay, this is K1DBC Net Control. I'll go ahead and start to wrap things up here. Covering some club business. Next meeting is November the 18th, so that'll be next week. Next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Is for the meeting presentation. It's going to be topic of tracking wildlife using fixed base RF telemetry, presented by Matt Webb. Not yet a amateur radio operator, but has a lot of interest in RF, so maybe we can try to convince him. So more info on W0TX.org for that. We'll have a Elmers session at 6 p.m., very similar to this, just a general Q&A, show and tell, whatever you'd like. You don't have to be a ham radio operator. This all takes place online on meet.google.com. So yeah, more info, W0TX.org next week, November the 18th.
Comment?
Yeah, go ahead with the comment.
Yeah, whenever you're on that page, the W0TX webpage, go on down and check out some of the articles that have been entered into the website. You'll find a lot of articles on antennas and a variety of topics there that have been posted. So there you go. And give those a look. Might answer a lot of... There you go, Daron. A lot of your questions might be answered there if you go in there and scan down through some of those and read some of those articles that have been posted there in the past. Good resource, another good resource. AA0JK.
Yeah, absolutely. Great reminder. The W0TX roundtable. You can find more info on that on the W0TX main homepage, either on the top there under roundtable, roundtable newsletter, or just kind of halfway down you'll see it as well. And then on that page you'll see a bunch of articles that are indexed of everything that we've discussed. And then there's a link to all of them, and they are in a PDF format. And they do a really good job of presenting. Just from the top, the president's message of what's going on, as well as new members in the club, technical committee reports. This is all no sign-in required. This is all you can get. You can find this all publicly. Learning Net reports. Yeah, a lot of cool things, and they have a good throwbacks to some of the older round tables here, like 1956 from September 1956 here. Pretty cool article here. Okay, with that, we will start to wrap things up here. Again, thank you all so much for being here. My name is Daron, K1DBC Net Control for the Denver Radio Club Ham Learning Net. Thank you all for being here. As I unscrew this thing here. Tonight we had a total of 20 check-ins. Thank you all so much for being here this evening. Again, next week is our meeting. More info at W0TX.org on that. If you want to set a topic to set a date to act as net controller, or set any topic presentations, you may do so via email at drclearningnet@gmail.com. Don't forget to visit our public mailing list at groups.io/G/ham learning net. Also on YouTube, if you search for us, W0TX DRC or channel WERE-GR8, you'll be able to find videos, archive of all of our recent nets and some of our club activities. All right. Thank you all for being here. Again, our next meeting is next Wednesday. More info, W0TX.org. Please join us next Wednesday for that. With that, all stations please stand by while I put the repeaters into normal mode.
PL on.
Okay, thank you all so much for being here. Hope to see you all next week. And 7-3 to all, I am clear. Okay, thank you all for joining me here this evening.
Thanks, Ron. 73, AA0JK.
7-3, Fred. One day I might do a tour of my ham shack, and we'll go from there. If you have any suggestions or anything you want to see, let me know. But with that, 7-3 to all.